What's up, guys? Hey, it's me, Sean Astrom. In today's video, I'm going to share with you my top 10 reasons why I think Corona Renderer for Cinema 4D is one of, if not the best, third-party render engines available today, right now. Let's have a look. Number 10. Corona Renderer supports and utilizes Cinema 4D's built-in native shaders. Let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to go here and create a new Corona material. And inside the diffuse channel, I'm going to go ahead and bring in a Cinema 4D noise. If I go here, I can switch this to something exciting like stupil, crank up the octaves, maybe the scale, throw this onto my sphere object, and I'm going to fire up the interactive rendering window. Now you can see here that we have this nice little texture. I can go back in here, and maybe I can play around with the scale of this, and that looks cool. Let me change the seed, actually. I'm going to go up a level, and let's say I want to throw this into a Cinema 4D layer shader. Well, I can do that as well, and maybe bring in a color here and change it to yellow, a crazy green yellow, and I can set this maybe to multiply. So that looks cool. And maybe, you know what, I want to add in a Fresnel, so let me do that here. Maybe I set this to physical, and I'm going to set this to multiply and lower the opacity. And this is a very ugly looking shader, but it's really just for demonstration purposes. Yeah, I think maybe you guys get the idea here. I'm going to go back to the diffuse channel and show you guys another one that works. Well, most of them work actually. And that's what's so darn amazing. Here I have the terrain mask working. Set this to dodge, and maybe I want to bring in, let's bring in the brick shader. Now this is probably one of the most beautiful shaders I've ever made. Just kidding. But anyway, guys, this is Cinema 4D's native shaders working within Corona. Number 9. Corona node-based materials. So if I go in here and create a new material and go into the attributes, we're going to create a quick metal. I'm going to enable reflection, and for metals we need to crank up the IOR value to something quite high like 100, and I'm going to load in a texture here for the color, and I'm going to load in another texture for the roughness. Now since Corona uses glossiness, we need to invert this map, and we can do that by hopping into the shader here and just switching these values here, the black point and the white point, and that effectively inverts the texture for us. And another thing, looking at the preview there, I can tell that we need to switch these textures to be read as linear. And now we can see with our preview here that we have a nice brass looking material. I'm going to go ahead and throw this onto my sphere object here. And if I select it and go into the attributes, I'm going to also switch the length and the U direction for the UV mapping to 50%. Now you might be wondering, well, where are the nodes? And that's the crazy cool thing about the way Corona nodes work, is we've already created them using the layer-based system. So if I drag this guy over to the Corona node window, we can see that we've set up Corona nodes. If I right click here, I can add in additional shaders, such as the filter shader, for example. And I can plug this guy into here and into there, and voila. I'm going to go ahead and change the color of this to kind of like a rosy gold. And let's go ahead and fire up the interactive viewport and see what we got here. And as you guys can see, we're getting a nice beautiful material preview here right within our viewport. And this is really great. So I can also go in here and add in a layer shader, for example. Plug this guy into here, into there, and maybe I want to add some additional noise on top of this guy. So I can do that just like so. I'm going to select the noise shader and maybe switch it to something like wavy turbulence, crank up the octaves, change the scale. Maybe not quite so high on the scale. And then, yeah, I can go into the layer shader and just maybe lower the opacity a little bit on that. And that is just one of the coolest features of Corona in the way nodes work, because if we go back to our attributes here for our material, you can see that it's still utilizing Cinema 4D's awesome layer-based system, but everything is set up for us in a nodal way. Number 8. super duper easy material setup. Let's have a look at that. I'm going to go in here and create a new material, Corona material, and I'm going to drag this into my node view. And I'm going to right click here and go load image, and let's bring in this leather texture. I'm going to plug that into my diffuse, and I'm going to bring in the associated roughness map. And let's go into the reflection channel here, enable that, and let's plug that into glossiness. Now we need to invert this map because Corona uses glossiness as opposed to roughness, and that's the only difference. And that's looking good, and I need to switch these for these particular textures to linear, so I'm going to do that again, and there we go. Not on the color though. Let's bump that back, and that looks pretty good. So that's cool. I'm going to throw this onto my little beautiful sphere object, and we can take a look here, and let's fire up the interactive viewport. See what we got. And yeah guys, so that is how quickly you can set up a Corona material. But let's have a look at another example. I'm going to go ahead and pause that or stop it. Let's bring in a, let's see here. Let's bring in a forester tree, and I'm going to do an apple tree. And don't be alarmed if you don't have forester. You can still kind of see what's going on here. So I have these materials that were created automatically, but they're default Cinema 4D materials. So all I need to do is go to the Corona menu here and go to this convert scene. I also have it docked in my user interface here, which would be this guy. And I can just convert those, and now it automatically converted these materials to Corona materials. And I'm going to bring the leaf over here into my node view, and let's drag this down here. I want to select my material here and enable translucency, and then I'm going to bring in a filter shader and plug this guy into here, and I want to change the color of this and the saturation a little bit and plug that guy into there. And if I go in here, that essentially, well, actually, I want to go, instead of going into this texture slot, I want to go into the color channel, which is down here, so I just need to plug this guy into there. And now I have sort of a translucent leaf material. And let me just fire up my interactive viewport here, and we can see what we get. Look at that. Just beautiful. So you can see that we have those lovely translucent leaves going on with the sun kind of shining through, and yeah, it's just that easy to set up such a material. Could also enable reflection and probably lower the glossiness down. And yeah guys, that is just two quick examples of how quickly you can set up your materials with Corona. Number 7, hard caustics, photon free. So if I go in here and create a new Corona material, and let's just uncheck diffuse and enable reflection and refraction here. There we go. Now in the refraction channel, we need to enable caustics. Now there's a little warning here. It says, hey, these might be a little slower to calculate, but that's okay. And if I go into my render settings, I'm going to go in here to the performance settings, and there's one little checkbox we need to enable as well for the new fast caustics, hard caustics solver. So I got that stuff set up. I'm going to go ahead and throw this onto my object here, which is essentially a sphere subdivided a little bit with a displacer, applying some noise to give it some unique shape. So I'm going to go ahead and fire up the interactive viewport, and we'll see what we get here. Now you'll be able to see right away these hard caustics, and you'll probably notice that there was no calculation time for photons or anything like that. These are truly ray traced hard caustics right within Corona Renderer. This is a new feature, and it's absolutely amazing. Number 6, absolutely stunning photorealistic rendering quality. Let me actually hop over to the Corona Gallery. I have some stuff pulled up here. If you guys haven't checked out the Corona Gallery on their website, I highly recommend you do. Pretty stunning stuff. I would say there is good reason that all of the architectural guys and gals have basically been going bonkers over this render engine. The quality that comes out of it is absolutely stunning. And yeah, guys, it's just amazing. So yeah, I highly recommend you guys check out their gallery. There's like a ton of imagery on here, so have a look. And here's a few things on my own site I've made with Corona, where I've spent a little more time, obviously, than some of the very simplistic tutorials that I've done. And then let me just show you here a little more complex scene I have here. Right now I have the interactive viewport enabled. This was a dragonfly model I was working on for a client. And yeah, guys, I don't know, just the GI, the lighting, the ease of use, that is a big factor. But ultimately, Corona looks amazing. Number 5, interactive viewport. So if I go to the Corona menu here, you can see we have interactive rendering and the new interactive viewport. So I have all this docked in my user interface over here, of course. But essentially, what this allows us to do is set up a special viewport just for our interactive rendering. And all I have done to do this is gone over here to my window here, and you can see that we can add a new view. You can have as many views as you'd like, and all you have to do is under the view menu here, just set this use as render view. So that's what I've done in this window, and if I go here, you can see that that's highlighted blue. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just enable this new interactive viewport, and you can see that we start to get a wonderful preview. Now the really amazing thing is, in our editor viewport, we're getting an insane high frames per second, and this is extremely interactive, and the viewport updates over here a little bit slower, but this is kind of the best combination. You have the ability to fly around your scene in the normal OpenGL viewport, and then get a very quick preview with this viewport here. So if I want, I can uncheck this, and I can go here and say use as render view and re-enable that guy as well, and that will update here. So this is a new feature, and I think it's absolutely awesome. I don't know of any other render engines for cinema that actually have the IPR or interactive render or whatever it's called functioning inside of cinema's own viewport. So not only is it working within here, but I can select objects and move them around and everything else. So yeah, guys, amazing feature inside of Corona. Number 4, render speed. Now I have a little scene set up here, nothing too crazy complex, but could be computationally difficult for other render engines out there. But I just have a cloner with this tree scattered about 120 trees going on here, and I've scattered them with a random effector and a push apart effector. And I've also, with my leaf material, enabled translucency so that the leaves are, get that nice translucent effect that we might see in leaves. So I'm actually render this to the picture viewer here, and let's just see how long this takes here to get a nice clean image. So I did a little math on the geometry of the tree. There's about 700,000 polygons. And multiplied that times 120 trees, we're looking at about 90 million polygons. And you can see just how quick Corona is able to resolve a scene like this. We'll just let this calculate a little bit longer. Maybe we'll let it go for 40 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and stop this, and Corona has some amazing built-in denoising features. And you can see after the denoising, we have a perfectly clean image, and it took about 45 seconds to render. Now obviously, depending on the scene, your render times are all over the place, but needless to say, Corona is extremely fast. I have one other scene. This is a more of a real-world scene I'm working on for a client at the moment. And you can see it's of this spacecraft, and I got planet Earth in the background here. These textures are for the Earth and the stars and everything else. They're over 16K resolution, and this model here is around 1 million polygons. So I'm going to go ahead and fire up again to the picture viewer here, and let's just see another scene here, how long it takes. Now again, since we're preparing the scene data, this planet Earth model has displacement, volumetric atmosphere, translucent clouds, so that's going on in the background, not to mention the star map is actually 32K, and then we have a beautiful model of the Orion spacecraft here, and yeah guys, you can probably see how quick this is to clean up, and you know, I'll go ahead and stop this one, go through my denoising, and you know, 41 seconds, we have a beautifully clean image. And yeah guys, just a couple examples of how quick Corona can be. Number 3, no render settings. Let me show you what I mean by that. So I have this magical scene here of this figure and a sun and a sky and whatnot. I'm going to go to my render settings here, which you can hit by doing Control B if you like shortcuts. And under renderer here, we're just going to switch this to Corona. And as you can see here, there's basically not very much going on here. And I'm just going to show you what you have to change in order to make your renders look amazing. So I'm going to fire up the interactive viewport here, and yeah guys, so that's what you have to do with your render settings with Corona Renderer. Maybe I might render this to the picture viewer. Let's see what this looks like. And yeah guys, beautiful. So that is the render settings with Corona. Number 2, Corona is absolutely, extremely, amazingly affordable. Let me show you what I mean by that. If we go to the website here, coronarenderer.com, we select this Buy Now option. You can see that you can get Corona for 3ds Max or Cinema 4D. And let's say we want the 3 floating rendered nodes option. If I hit the Buy button, you can see here that that will cost us $28.50 per month. And that's pretty darn cheap for a state-of-the-art render engine. And yeah guys, that's it. Number 1. That's right, we've made it. So the number 1 reason that I think Corona Renderer is freaking fantastic is that it's CPU based. So what does that mean? Well, Corona utilizes your computer's CPU as opposed to a GPU. Now many renderers have gone GPU recently, but there's still a fantastic slew of benefits to being CPU based. For example, on my machine I have 128 gigabytes of RAM, which Corona can access all of that memory without any limitation. Also, fantastic companies like AMD have been releasing ridiculously insane CPUs for crazy prices. Let me show you here. Here's a little article about the newly announced 16-core Ryzen 3000 series processor. And that processor has posted a Cinebench R15 score of 4,278 points. I had a computer a few years ago that was scoring around 1,700 points, and I had spent over $8,000 on that computer, and this processor is selling for $750. So that's insane. Also, you know, you can right now purchase the 2nd gen Threadripper, which is what I'm running in my machine. It's a 32-core processor, and the Cinebench Score R15 that I have been able to achieve with this processor is just under 6,000 points. But you know, you are going to pay a little bit more for this guy. This guy comes in at around, you know, $1,700. But the beautiful thing, guys, is you can run Corona on one of these things. You could even run Corona on one of these as well. You could even run Corona on this stuff. So yeah, that's pretty amazing. And also, AMD has, well, there's been rumors that there will be a 64-core Ryzen Threadripper chip coming soon. So, you know, just take that Cinebench score of 6,000 and go ahead and double that to 12,000. And yeah, guys, so you could even run Corona on here, this Surface Go laptop or tablet, or that laptop, or literally any computer that has a computer processing unit in it, you can run Corona. And that, I think, is pretty darn amazing.